Welcome to Lesson 6 of Story-Based English. In this lesson, we have a very interesting story for you. It is about a bakery that only opens at midnight. Strange, right? By the end of this lesson, you will know 10 new vocabulary words, and you will understand how to use the words might, could, and may to talk about possibilities. These are called modals of possibility, and they are very useful in everyday English. Let's begin. Okay, here is our first sentence. Listen carefully. Driven by curiosity, Lena followed the warm aroma of fresh bread down a quiet street, thinking it might lead to something wonderful. Let me read that one more time. Driven by curiosity, Lena followed the warm aroma of fresh bread down a quiet street, thinking it might lead to something wonderful. All right, let's dig into the sentence. It is a beautiful opening. First, let's look at the word curiosity. Curiosity is the feeling of wanting to know more about something. When you see something strange and you want to understand it, that feeling is curiosity. For example, if you see a locked door and you really want to know what is behind it, that is your curiosity talking. The adjective form is curious. You might say, I am curious about this place. Can you think of something that made you curious recently? Maybe a strange noise or an unusual sign? Good. Now, the second word is aroma. An aroma is a pleasant smell, especially from food or drinks. We do not usually use aroma for bad smells. For bad smells, we say odor or just smell, but aroma is always nice. Think about the smell of fresh bread or coffee or cooking. Those pleasant smells are aromas. Now let's look at the grammar. In this sentence, Lena thinks the aroma might lead to something wonderful. The word might is a modal verb. We use might to talk about things that are possible, but we are not sure about them. Think of it as maybe in verb form. It might rain means maybe it will rain. She might come means maybe she will come. The structure is simple. Subject plus might plus the base form of the verb. No S, no ED, no ING. Just the simple verb. The important thing is, might shows low to medium certainty. You think something is possible, but you do not know for sure. Here is a quick question. If I say, I might go to the party, am I sure I am going? No, it means maybe I will go, maybe I will not. That uncertainty is what might is all about. Great work on the first sentence. Now let's see what Lena finds at the end of that quiet street. Here is sentence 2. She found a peculiar little shop with no sign, but the door was open, and she hesitated before stepping inside, wondering if it could be a real bakery. One more time. She found a peculiar little shop with no sign, but the door was open, and she hesitated before stepping inside, wondering if it could be a real bakery. Oh, this one is interesting. 2 really useful words here. First, the word peculiar. Peculiar means strange or unusual, but in a way that makes you curious, not scared. Something peculiar makes you look twice and think, that is odd. A peculiar smell, a peculiar man, a peculiar habit. All of these describe something that is not normal, but not necessarily bad. Can you think of something peculiar you have seen recently? Think about it. Something a little unusual, a little different from what you expected. Now, the second word is hesitated. To hesitate means to pause before doing something because you are not sure. Maybe you are nervous, or maybe you need a moment to decide. Imagine you are about to jump into a cold swimming pool. You stop for a second, right? That moment of stopping is hesitation. Notice something. Hesitated connects nicely to our first word from sentence 1. Remember curiosity? Lena was curious, but she also hesitated. She wanted to go in, but she was not completely sure. That is a very human reaction, right? Curiosity pulling you forward, but hesitation holding you back. Now the grammar. Lena wonders if the shop could be a real bakery. Here we have our second modal of possibility, could. Could is very similar to might, but there is a small difference. Could often suggests that something is possible because the situation allows it. It could rain means the conditions are right for rain. She could be at home means it is a reasonable possibility. The structure is the same as might, subject plus could plus base verb. Here is a question for you. What is the difference between it might be a bakery and it could be a bakery? They are very close in meaning, but could sometimes feels a little more likely than might. Think of could as saying, the evidence suggests this is possible. Excellent! Lena has found this strange bakery. Let's see what happens when she goes inside. Here is sentence 3. The proprietor, a tall man with flour on his hands, smiled warmly and gestured for her to sit down. Let me read that again. The proprietor, a tall man with flour on his hands, smiled warmly and gestured for her to sit down. Now here is where things get really interesting. First, the word proprietor. A proprietor is the owner of a business, especially a shop or a restaurant. It is a more formal word than owner, and it sounds a little old-fashioned. You will often see this word in stories and novels. In everyday conversation, most people just say owner. But proprietor gives the story a certain feeling, right? It makes the bakery feel special, like it has history. Can you guess why the author chose proprietor instead of owner? Right, it makes the story feel more mysterious and unique. Now, the second word is gestured. To gesture means to move your hand or your head to communicate something without using words. When someone waves you over, or points to a chair, or nods toward a door, they are gesturing. Think about it. How many times do you gesture every day? You probably do it all the time without even noticing. A wave, a nod, a pointed finger. These are all gestures. Now, here is a nice connection to what we learned earlier. Remember how Lena hesitated before going inside? The proprietor's warm gesture seems to help her feel welcome. He is using body language to say, come in, sit down, relax. No words needed. There is no new modal in the sentence, but notice the warm tone. The proprietor smiled warmly. This is important for the story because it changes how Lena feels. In the next sentence, we will see how this changes what she thinks might happen. Okay, we are halfway through the story now. Let's do a quick check. We have learned some great words so far. Do you remember what curiosity means? Right, it is the feeling of wanting to know more about something. And what about peculiar? Exactly, it means strange or unusual, but in an interesting way. And we have been looking at our modals of possibility. Can you remember the difference between might and could? Great. Might shows low to medium certainty, and could often suggests that the evidence supports the possibility. You are doing really well. Let's continue and find out what happens next in the bakery. Here is sentence 4. He explained that anyone with a real craving for bread may find this place, but only after midnight. One more time. He explained that anyone with a real craving for bread may find this place, but only after midnight. Oh, I love this sentence. It adds so much mystery to the story. Let's start with the word craving. A craving is a very strong desire for something, especially food. It is much stronger than just wanting something. When you have a craving, you really, really want it. For example, I have a craving for chocolate means you want chocolate so much that you cannot stop thinking about it. Do you ever have cravings for a particular food? Maybe late at night? I think we all do. Now let's look at the grammar. The proprietor says that anyone with a craving may find this place. Here we have our third modal of possibility, may. May is very similar to might and could, but it often sounds a bit more formal or poetic. In everyday conversation, most people use might or could, but in stories and formal writing, may is very common. Think of may as the most elegant of the three. You may sit down sounds more polite than you might sit down, and it may rain sounds a little more formal than it might rain. Let me give you a simple way to remember all three. Think of a scale of formality. Might is casual, could is neutral, may is formal, but all three can express possibility. Now here is an important connection. Remember the aroma from sentence 1? The proprietor is saying that the aroma is a kind of signal. Only people with a real craving can follow it and find the bakery. That is why Alina was drawn here. Her curiosity and her craving for bread guided her. Pretty magical, right? Wonderful. The mystery is building. Let's find out what happens next. Here is sentence 5. Lena savored every bite of the warm golden bread, and when she looked up, the bakery had vanished. leaving her alone on the empty street. Let me read that again. Lena savored every bite of the warm golden bread, and when she looked up, the bakery had vanished, leaving her alone on the empty street. Okay, this is a dramatic sentence. Let's break it down. First, the word savored. To savor something means to enjoy it slowly and completely. When you savor food, you do not eat it quickly. You take your time, you enjoy every taste. You can also savor moments. If you are watching a beautiful sunset and you stop to really enjoy it, you are savoring that moment. Think about the best meal you ever had. Did you eat it quickly or slowly? If you ate it slowly and enjoyed every bite, you were savoring it. Now, the second word is vanished. To vanish means to disappear suddenly and completely. One moment something is there, and the next moment it is gone. Imagine a magician making a coin disappear. That coin vanished. The bakery in our story did the same thing. It was there, and then it was gone. And here's a nice connection to what we learned earlier. Remember the word peculiar from sentence 2? A bakery that vanishes is definitely peculiar. In fact, it might be the most peculiar thing Lena has ever seen. Now, there is no new modal structure in this sentence, but notice how the story uses past simple and past perfect together. She looked up is past simple, and the bakery had vanished is past perfect. The past perfect tells us that the bakery disappeared before she looked up. The vanishing was already complete. This combination is very common in B1 storytelling, and you will see it often in English fiction. What a twist! The bakery vanished. Let's see the final sentence and find out how Lena reacts. Here is our final sentence. Listen carefully. Astonished, she looked at the bread in her hands and thought that the whole thing might have been a dream, but the taste was too real to forget. One last time. Astonished, she looked at the bread in her hands and thought that the whole thing might have been a dream, but the taste was too real to forget. Oh, what a beautiful ending. Let's break it down. First, the word astonished. Astonished means extremely surprised. It is much stronger than just surprised. When you are astonished, you almost cannot believe what has happened. Think of it as the highest level of surprise. Surprised is normal. Amazed is more. Astonished is the most. Here's a question for you. Have you ever been truly astonished by something? Something so surprising that you could not believe your own eyes? That is the feeling Lena has right now. Now let's look at the grammar. This is a really important one. Lena thinks it might have been a dream. This is a new structure. Might have plus past participle. We use might have plus past participle to talk about possibilities in the past, things that maybe happened but we are not sure. It might have been a dream means maybe it was a dream but I am not sure. She might have left early means maybe she left early but I do not know. The structure is subject plus might have plus the past participle form. Think about this. In the earlier sentences, we used might, could, and may for present or future possibilities. Now with might have been, we are looking back at the past and guessing about what happened. You see how the story connects? We started with it might lead in sentence 1, which was about a future possibility. Now we end with it might have been a dream, which is about a past possibility. The modals are the same, but the time has changed. And here's the beautiful part. Lena thinks it might have been a dream, but the bread in her hands is real. The taste is too real to forget. So was it a dream, or was the bakery real? That is the mystery, and that is the power of modals. They let us express uncertainty, and uncertainty is what makes stories exciting. All right. Now that we have broken everything down, let's listen to the entire story one more time, from beginning to end. Just listen and follow along. Driven by curiosity, Lena followed the warm aroma of fresh bread down a quiet street, thinking it might lead to something wonderful. She found a peculiar little shop with no sign, but the door was open, and she hesitated before stepping inside, wondering if it could be a real bakery. The proprietor, a tall man with flour on his hands, smiled warmly and gestured for her to sit down. He explained that anyone with a real craving for bread may find this place, but only after midnight. Lena savored every bite of the warm golden bread, And when she looked up, the bakery had vanished, leaving her alone on the empty street. Astonished, she looked at the bread in her hands and thought that the whole thing might have been a dream, but the taste was too real to forget. And that was our story for this lesson. What a beautiful mystery. And that is a wrap for this lesson. You did amazing work. Let's look at everything you learned. Vocabulary. You learned 10 new words in this lesson. Curiosity, aroma, peculiar, hesitated, proprietor, gestured, craving, savored, vanished, and astonished. 10 new words. Grammar. We covered modals of possibility. You now understand how to use might for low certainty, could for reasonable possibility, and may for formal possibility. And we even explored might have plus past participle for guessing about the past. You also saw a beautiful example of an ambiguous ending in English storytelling. Be proud of yourself. You are building a very strong English foundation. Head over to the quiz section to test yourself on this lesson's vocabulary and grammar. And finally, practice what you have learned in the role-play section. You can talk to an AI partner and try using these modals in a real conversation. See you in the next lesson.